Harihi Om. Welcome to everyone for this today's topic, Dispelling the Darkness Within. In this whole world, there are always a different people everywhere, and everyone has a different mindset. How do we know that who has a positive and a focused mindset, and who is that who is completely crawling in darkness? So, solution is very simple, or detection is also very simple. One who has so much of negativity in mind, and therefore this person spreads the negativity all over, such person is completely crawling in darkness. Now, how to dispel it? In Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan Sri Krishna gives very important message. The message is in the 6th chapter. He says, Uddhare Atmanatmanam Na Atmanam Avasadhayet Atmaiva Yatmana Bandhu Atmaiva Ripuratmanaha. Meaning, the message is clear to every one of us, should be clear, because Bhagavan is telling to Arjuna, O Arjuna, lift your mind by your own right efforts. Why is it so? Because if we do not lift our own mind, then our mind can fall down. And the mind which falls down in negativity, that mind becomes the worst enemy of any one of us. But one who can, with right efforts, with positivity, lifts one's own mind, then that mind can really create miracle in dispelling the darkness within. Let me just throw some light on this topic now, which is how the mind is under this spell of darkness. That's also an important point to note or understand. See, what is called as a darkness of the mind or darkness of the subtle body? When I say subtle body, that means mind and intellect together. When the mind is full of egocentric desires, when the mind is full of egocentric desires, then that mind cannot understand anything other than one's own joy and one's own comfort. That's the state of complete self self-centeredness. Such people cannot bother about anyone, and such people can give great trouble, or to the great extent they can harm anyone around them to have their own joy or to fulfill their own selfish desire. So, examples are many in our scriptures, like Duryodhan and whole Kauravas in Mahabharata war. They were all unrighteous and egocentric in each and every approach of their life. In Ramayana, Ravana was also very egocentric, very self-centered, and full of egocentric desires. And that's how both in Mahabharata, Duryodhana was completely under the spell of darkness, and in Ramayana, there was a Ravana who was completely under the spell of darkness because of one and one reason, and that's called as egocentric desires. Now, what happens when someone has this egocentric desire? Just note it. When the egocentric desire comes in the mind, then in Bhagavad Gita it is beautifully explained what and how there changes happen in one's own mind. Second chapter, Bhagavan says, Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha Sangasteshopajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha Kamat Krodho Bhijayate Krodhat Bhavati Sammohaha Sammohat Smriti Vibhramaha Smritir Brahmshad Buddhinashaha Buddhinashat Pranashyati. Bhagavan is telling there, one who has this egocentric desire, then whenever he looks at some object which is a desirous object of his own mind, then he continuously keep thinking about it, or she continuously keep thinking about it. A person, when continuously keeps thinking about it, it is called as brooding over. So a person starts brooding over the object. Then what happens? Dhyayato Vishyan Punsa Sangasteshu Upajayate. Then a very strong desire, which is called as a passion, develops in the mind of the person. And that person then says, I must get it. Then if that object of desire, a person, if by chance doesn't get it, then flares up the anger. And anger is so strong. What happens? The whole Viveka Buddhi, called as discrimination power, gets completely destroyed. And this person acts very incorrectly, or we can say very wrongly, and therefore the intellect can really ruin one's own life. So, how it happened? It is because of a brooding over one desire or many desires which are egocentric in nature. Yes. Now we have reached to that point that why there is a darkness. What is called as darkness? Darkness is that where You cannot see beyond your joy anything else joy. You can't see beyond your comforts anyone comforts, and a person becomes completely self-centered and can act very selfishly to get one's own joy or to acquire one's own comforts. Solution is, first one must notice this is because of the ego, ahankar. And therefore, there is this darkness which is of desire in nature. In the Amrit Bindu Upanishad, it is clearly mentioned what is called as pure mind and what is called as impure mind. So there it is mentioned, when the mind is full of egocentric desire, that's called as impure mind. And that's called as the mind under the spell of ignorance. The mind which is pure, where there are no egocentric desires, that mind which is pure is full of self-knowledge. And there where the darkness has no place at all. A small example. If the room is dark and we have to dispel this darkness, what is a simple solution? As a big festival of Diwali is there now. So just bring one light, one lamp, and the darkness will be dispelled. Similarly, this darkness of desire, which is there because of ignorance. What is that ignorance? In Vedanta, ignorance means one who does not know one's own true nature. That is called as ignorance. That means one who does not know one's own true identity. Who am I? That person is under a complete spell of ignorance, that is darkness. Solution is one and one. That's called as the self-knowledge. Then one must understand what is that which is a source of complete knowledge. What is that which is the source of energy? What is that which is the source of positivity? So according to the scriptures, it is beautifully mentioned, it is one and one without the second, and that entity is the self, Atma Tattva. Atma Tattva is of the nature of Sat Chit Anand. Atma Tattva is of the nature of Sat Chit Anand. What is Sat? That which is changeless, that which is permanent, that which is a substratum of everything, that which is always there in the past, present and future. That is Sat, the existence. What is Chit? Chit is that aspect of Atma Tattva which is called as consciousness, that which is a knowledge principle, that which is self-effulgent, that by knowing which, that by realizing which, everything else will be known. What is the Ananda? Ananda means the bliss. That which is infinite. That which is complete. And there is no possibility of any incompleteness in it by anything of this world. Such principle is the principle of bliss. Now, these three aspects are not three qualities of Atma Tattva. No. I'll give an example. Like a coin is there and it has both sides. One is head and one is tail. So, one coin has two sides. That means they are not different than the coin. Similarly, Sat, Chit, Ananda. They are the three aspects to make people understand. But they are not three different things. So, Atma Tattva is Sat, Chit, Ananda. How to reach to this Atma Tattva? Yes, it requires a first step which is called as Karma Yoga. What is that? One must start doing every action selflessly. Every action selflessly. When one person takes up this path of Karma Yoga, the selfless action, slowly, the mind gets purified. Slowly. When the mind gets purified slowly, what happens? How to know? Then, this mind does not get disturbed by the pinpricks of the life. That means it gets established in samatva, equipoise. And that's the purity of the mind. Such pure mind is ready to receive the highest knowledge, to remove and dispel the darkness, whatever is now present, which is loosened because of the selfless, pure actions. Here, a person when reaches to Guru and learns the Shastra, then he understands that this body, mind and intellect is nothing but my instrument. I am not body, I am not the mind, I am not the intellect. I am one who enlightens this body, mind and intellect. In my presence, this body, mind and intellect gains the power, and then they do the activities. So, this Atma Tattva, that I am, this one must able to recognize and one must able to abide in it. Now question comes, how to abide? Then our scripture tells, if someone gains this knowledge, but this knowledge remains at the intellectual level, how to make this knowledge one's own experience? There requires path of meditation. So, in meditation, a person when sits in one firm posture, turning one's own mind completely towards the self. Bhagavan says in Bhagavad Gita, Shanai Shanai Uparame Buddhya Dhruti Gruhitaya Atma samstam manakritva na kinchit api chintayet. This is the method. Slowly, slowly, step by step, let us turn our mind within. How? This dhruti, that is called as fortitude, that power of intellect, which takes up this path to reach to that final destination of self-realization. Amongst all the odds, amongst all the obstacles, it just goes slowly, one step ahead. With this, with right understanding, keep your mind completely focused on the self, and that time let not entertain any thought. For that, first practice is required for training one's own complete focus as to just be there as witness. When one gets established in this witnesshood, then you see your mind, you see your intellect, but you are completely away from it. You are not identified with it. If someone can reach here, then the last step is possible of realizing the self. That requires very strong determination. It may happen that the mind sometimes can get distracted. Then, yato nischarati manaschanchalamastiram tatastato niyamyaitad atmannevam vasham nayet. Bhagavan says in the Dhyana Yoga in Bhagavad Gita, yato nischarati manaschanchalamastiram. That mind, when it keeps going out, one has to bring it back. And again, turn it towards the self. And that's the method to realize the self. Once the person gets established in one's own self, then this fictitious entity called as ego gets completely annihilated. And then all the egocentric desire gets completely destroyed, and there cannot be any impurity in the mind. That is the state where the consciousness is completely glowing. The consciousness is there as complete awareness, and this person never can fall again in the trap of the darkness. This is how one can remove, dispel the darkness within. It also requires the help of Almighty, the grace of Almighty, and the blessings of Guru. Then it is possible. Let us strive hard with this right understanding, with right dedication, right fortitude. One can reach to the supreme peace and bliss. Hari Om.